People still argue about whether children can remember past lives. But in 1842, a 7-year-old boy from a forgotten European village spoke of a war that hadn't happened yet and described deaths that were never written down. Before this story begins, take a moment. If you believe history still hides secrets, and if you want more stories that were erased, whispered, or buried on purpose, subscribe to this channel now, because stories like this were never meant to survive. A child who spoke like an old man. His name was Elias Varn, born during a winter so harsh the church records described it as the season God forgot. The village of Karsfeld lay tucked between forests and stone hills, too small to matter, too quiet to remember. Elias was the youngest child of a mill worker, thin, pale, silent for most of his early life, until the night he woke screaming in a language no one in the village spoke anymore. His mother thought it was a fever dream. His father thought the boy had heard old men talking. But Elias did not cry like a child. He shouted commands, orders, battle instructions. The first name he spoke was not his own. 3 nights after his 7th birthday, Elias sat straight up in bed and said clearly, "I left them behind at the river. I shouldn't have." His mother froze. "What river?" she whispered. Elias looked at her, not confused, not frightened, but ashamed. "The one where the men drowned because I told them to cross too early." That was impossible. There had been no river crossing, no battle, no war in Karsfeld in over 50 years, and Elias had never left the village. The notebook that shouldn't exist. Within weeks, Elias began drawing, not childish sketches, but maps, paths through forests no one traveled, symbols used in military records decades old, marks for supply routes, ambush points, retreat lines. A traveling schoolmaster noticed something chilling. "These are not imagination," he said quietly. "These are tactical formations." When asked where he learned them, Elias replied, "I learned them the last time, when I failed." A war that was never recorded. The boy spoke often of a battle called the Red Hollow. He described fog so thick men stabbed shadows. He named officers who never appeared in any surviving archive. But when the schoolmaster traveled to the regional capital, he found something strange, a single damaged ledger. Inside, half-burned pages referenced a classified military engagement struck from official history after a disastrous outcome. The location matched Elias's drawings, the date matched Elias's nightmares, and one officer's name appeared again and again, Captain Elias Varn. The child heard the dead before he could read. After this discovery, the boy changed. He refused to sleep near windows. He would stop mid-sentence and listen to empty rooms. Sometimes he saluted nothing. Once, during church, Elias whispered, "They're still waiting for orders." The priest demanded silence. Elias stood and recited the names of 16 men, all unknown to the village. Later that year, when mass graves were uncovered during road construction near the forest, 16 skeletons were found. Why history erased the Red Hollow. Officials arrived quietly. They spoke softly. They asked the parents questions they were not allowed to answer. Elias was examined, measured, tested. He never failed. When shown weapons he had never seen, he named their weight, their flaws, their failures. When asked why the war was lost, he answered, "Because I trusted the wrong silence." The sentence that ended all questions. On Elias's 8th birthday, a man in a dark coat asked him one final question. "If you could speak to the dead, what would you tell them?" The boy thought for a long time, then said that "I remember them, and that this time I won't forget." When the state 3 months later, Elias stopped speaking entirely. No
And
announcement
this
was
was
ever made
only
when
the
the men
beginning.
came for Elias'
Because the
barn.
records don't
There was
end
no
here.
decree nailed
They
to
go
the church
quiet.
door, no
And when a
warning
story goes
whispered through the
quiet in
village.
history,
One
it's
morning,
usually
the fog
because someone
simply
made it
lingered
that
longer
way.
than usual, and by afternoon, Elias was gone. They said it was for his protection. They always do. Two men arrived in coats too clean for the roads of Karsfeld, their boots untouched by mud. A third followed, older, quieter, carrying a leather case that never left his hand. Elias did not resist when his mother clutched him. He only turned once, looking at the mill behind their home, and said something that would haunt her until her death. "I won't see this place again. Not this time." His father demanded papers. The men showed seals, red wax, authority that did not explain itself. By nightfall, the house felt hollow, as if sound itself had moved out with the child. The facility that wasn't on any map. Elias was taken east, far beyond the forests, to a stone compound officially listed as a medical retreat. In truth, it was neither medical nor a retreat. Its corridors were too narrow, its windows too high, its silence too deliberate. Children were rarely brought there. Children like Elias were never meant to leave. Doctors questioned him first. They spoke gently, offering warm broth and soft blankets. They asked about dreams, about drawings, about voices. Elias answered politely, precisely, without fear. Then they changed tactics. Military men replaced physicians. Priests replaced nurses. Men who never wrote their questions down. They asked him about command structure, about troop morale, about why the men at Red Hollow followed him even when they should have fled. Elias listened. Then he corrected them. The mistake that terrified them. During one session, a colonel asked Elias to describe the final moments of the battle. Elias closed his eyes, then said calmly, "You're standing too close. If you don't step back, the rifle will misfire." The colonel laughed. The rifle exploded. No one was killed, but the room never felt safe again. From that moment, Elias was no longer questioned for information. He was observed. What the boy drew when he was alone. They took away his pencils, so Elias used charcoal from the fireplace. He covered walls with diagrams, not maps this time, timelines. Lines looping back into themselves, dates written forward, then crossed out, then written again slightly altered, symbols marking divergence points, loss points. One doctor noted in secret correspondence, "The child does not believe time moves forward, he believes it corrects itself." Another wrote, "He speaks as if he has failed before." The confession no one asked for. One night, without prompt, Elias spoke. "There are things I didn't say," he told the night attendant. "What things?" the attendant asked. "The things that make them stop asking questions." The attendant leaned closer. Elias whispered, "This isn't the first time I've been here." The man laughed nervously. Elias did not smile. A memory that was not a memory. Over weeks, fragments emerged. Elias described sitting in the same stone room, older, heavier, bloodied. He described signing documents with shaking hands. He described begging not to be sent back. He said, "They told me I could fix it. They said if I went far enough back, fewer would die." "Who told you that?" a priest demanded. Elias looked at him. "You did." The church fell silent. The priests stopped coming, not because they doubted Elias, but because they believed him. Records show 3 clergy members requested reassignment within a month. One vanished entirely. His name was later scratched out of baptismal logs as if he had never existed. Elias noticed. "He's afraid of remembering," he said. The experiment that should never have been attempted. The state authorized something they never named. No machine, no ritual, only isolation. They locked Elias in a room with no sound, no markers, no light for days at a time, believing deprivation would erase imagination. Instead, it sharpened him.
When they returned, Elias greeted them with dates, events, deaths that would occur years later. They laughed again. They always did at first. The letter that arrived too early. In the spring of 1843, a sealed letter addressed to a man who had not yet been promoted. Inside was news of his future death, exactly as Elias described. The man resigned the next day. What Elias finally admitted. One evening, Elias asked for paper, not to draw, to write. They allowed it, confident a child could do no damage. He wrote one sentence: "You erased the wrong war." When asked what he meant, he explained, "There were many versions. This one was the least bloody, and you still buried it." The child who refused to continue. By age 9, Elias stopped cooperating entirely. He sat, he watched, he waited. When a doctor threatened punishment, Elias quietly said, "If you hurt me, you won't like what comes next." They did not hurt him. The last thing he said before silence. On the final recorded day, Elias was asked a question no one expected. "If you could do it again," the examiner said, "would you change anything?" Elias took a long time to answer. Then, "I already did." Why the files end here. After that day, entries become sparse. Dates missing, signatures incomplete, ink fading where it should not. Elias Varn's name appears one last time, not under death, not under release, but under one single word:
stop lying.
Resolve.
Not because the truth is written, but because nothing is written at all. For Elias Varn, that moment came in the winter of 1844. Snow fell for 6 days without pause, sealing the stone compound from the outside world. No visitors arrived, no officials traveled, and for the first time since Elias had been taken from Karsfeld, no one came to question him. They believed silence would starve him. They were wrong. What the guards began to notice. It started small. Clocks inside the facility no longer agreed with one another. A watch would lose minutes, then gain them back. Candles burned unevenly, as if time itself hesitated before moving forward. One guard swore he saw Elias standing at the end of a corridor, even though records placed the boy locked in his room. Another claimed he heard Elias humming an old marching tune that had not been sung since the war Elias spoke of, the war no one admitted existed. The men stopped writing reports. Fear does that. The map Elias never drew. When officials finally entered Elias's room after 3 days of silence, they expected madness. Instead, they found order. Elias sat calmly on the floor. The walls were clean, no charcoal, no markings. But the floor between his hands was worn smooth, as if something had been traced there again and again. "What are you doing?" the examiner asked. Elias looked up, waiting for the correction. The truth he was never meant to say aloud. That night, Elias spoke freely for the first time in months. He told them the war had happened many times, not once, not twice, but again and again, rewritten each time it grew too costly. The first version killed thousands, he said. The second destroyed a capital. The third ended families that were never born. Each time someone tried to fix it, each time it grew worse. "So you erased it," Elias said quietly. "You chose the version where only the forgotten died." No one denied it. Why Elias was different. One official finally asked the question no one else dared. "Why do you remember?" Elias answered without hesitation, "Because I stayed behind." He explained that in one version of the war, a single officer refused evacuation.
He stayed with the wounded. He watched the world correct itself, collapse inward, and rebuild without him. That officer was Elias, not the child, the man. And when time reset, something went wrong. Memory came with him.
The version that was allowed to exist.
The choice
There are
that
places
could
in the
not
world
be
that feel
undone.
older than memory. Not ancient, but edited. As if something important once stood there and was carefully removed, leaving behind a shape no one can quite explain. Red Hollow was one of those places. By the time Elias Varn disappeared, Red Hollow officially did not exist. Maps curved around it. Roads changed course for no reason. Travelers reported feeling uneasy without knowing why. And yet, people dreamed of it. The first man who remembered Elias after he was gone. In 1871, nearly 30 years after the facility emptied itself, a retired archivist named Jonah Krell broke protocol. He had been assigned to destroy obsolete military documents, the kind no one read anymore. Half-burned ledgers, misdated reports, pages written in handwriting that no longer matched any known officer. Jonah was careful, methodical, until he found a page that mentioned a name he recognized, Elias Varn. But the date was wrong. The document placed Elias in a command tent as an adult during a border conflict that occurred decades after the boy vanished. Jonah felt something tighten in his chest because he remembered that name, not from records, from a dream he had as a child. The dream that should have been impossible. Elias had grown up far from Karsfeld. He had never studied that war, and yet, as a boy, he dreamed repeatedly of standing in fog, listening to someone younger than him give orders with terrifying calm. The boy in the dream always turned away before Jonah could see his face, but now, holding the document, Jonah knew. The dream stopped the night he read Elias's name aloud. What Elias actually did. Over the next year, Jonah broke every rule. He cross-referenced sealed files. He read between censored lines. He compared drafts of history that were never meant to coexist. And slowly, a truth emerged. Elias did not fix time. He contained it. The War of Red Hollow was not erased because it was small. It was erased because it was the hinge, the moment from which countless futures branched. Elias chose the branch with the least suffering, and then he stayed there. The final correction. In the last surviving fragment written in Elias's hand, Jonah found a paragraph that explained everything. Elias wrote that time was not linear, it was weighted. Each choice bent it. Each death pulled it downward. Some events became so heavy they threatened to tear history apart. Red Hollow was one of them. So Elias anchored it by binding his memory to it, by becoming the part of the story that could not move forward. Why Elias could never grow old. This was the cost no one spoke of. Elias did not die. He also did not live. Each time history tried to drift, Elias was there, unseen, adjusting, absorbing, remembering. He remained a child because children are overlooked, children are dismissed, children are forgotten. The reason children hear things adults don't. Elias wrote something that frightened Jonah more than anything else. Children hear echoes because they haven't learned what to ignore. This explained the reports, why children spoke of places that weren't on maps, why some children described wars no one taught them, why certain names appeared again and again only in playground rhymes and bedtime fears. Elias wasn't alone. He was the first. The warning hidden in a nursery song. Jonah eventually traced a children's song sung across 3 countries, always slightly different, always incomplete.
One version ended with a line no adult could explain. "If the fog remembers you, don't answer when it calls." Jonah realized the song was a message, not to children, to history. Why this story was buried again. When Jonah submitted his findings, the response was immediate. Not denial, silence. His position was dissolved, his access revoked, his notes confiscated. Jonah died 2 years later, but not before mailing a single packet to a private collector. Inside it was the fragment you're hearing now. And why you're hearing it now? Because Elias's corrections are failing. Clocks drift again. Children remember things they shouldn't. Wars repeat with small, terrifying differences. And because somewhere, perhaps very close, a child is beginning to speak like an old man
When the
again.
child began to listen again.
If you're still listening,
History
then do
does
one
not
thing.
repeat itself
remember
loudly.
the name,
It whispers.
Elias Varn.
And it almost
Because the
always
moment
chooses
everyone
a child.
forgets him, history will try to fix itself
The
again.
year the clocks
And
drifted.
next time, the cost
In the autumn
may
of
be much higher.
2009, a minor anomaly appeared across 3 European cities. Nothing dramatic, no headlines, just a series of complaints filed by watchmakers and railway officials. Clocks refused to stay synchronized. Digital systems corrected themselves, then drifted again. Mechanical clocks lost time in patterns that made no sense, always pausing briefly at the same minute. 3:17 a.m. No one connected it to anything larger, except a 7-year-old girl named Mara Ilves. The girl who wouldn't sleep near fog. Mara lived with her grandmother in a border town that had once been called something else, a name no one used anymore. She hated fog, not the kind that rolled in softly, but the heavy kind that pressed against windows as if listening. On the first night the clock stopped at 3:17, Mara woke screaming, not crying, commanding. Her grandmother rushed in, shaking. "Mara, sweetheart, what's wrong?" Mara sat upright and said, "We're late. He said we'd be late if we waited." "Who?" her grandmother whispered. Mara frowned, as if disappointed. "The boy who stayed." Words a child was never taught. Over the following weeks, Mara began speaking in fragments that did not belong to her. She used words her grandmother had never heard. She referenced places not on maps. She corrected adults when they misremembered events that never happened. At school, she drew circles intersecting with lines. Not pictures, not shapes, choices. Her teacher called it imagination. Until Mara looked up one day and said, "If you send me home early today, the train will derail." The teacher laughed. The train did derail. The name that returned. The child psychologist was called in, then another. Mara was tested, observed, isolated. She never resisted. She only asked one question again and again. "Has anyone remembered him yet?" Finally, someone asked who she meant. Mara hesitated, then said the name softly, like a secret she wasn't sure she was allowed to keep. Elias. The file that reopened itself. That name triggered something buried deep inside an international archive, a sealed classification marked resolved. The file had no author, no origin, but it opened anyway. Inside were fragments, references to Red Hollow, to corrections, to a boy who never aged because history needed him where he was. A note attached in handwriting that should not have survived read, "If another child remembers, the anchor is failing." What Elias had been holding back.
As Mara spoke more, the anomalies spread. People remembered siblings they never had. Soldiers dreamed of wars that never made the news. Old men cried over losses no one could name. Elias had been containing not one event, but many. Each correction had layered pressure onto the next. And now, after more than a century, the weight was too much. The message Elias left for this moment. Hidden within the recovered fragments was a final instruction, not a command, a plea. If the next child listens, do not silence them, do not study them, do not take them away. Let them choose. Elias had learned something the state never did. You cannot force history to heal. Mara's choice. When officials finally came for Mara, they found her sitting calmly by the window, fog curling just outside. She looked up and said, "He says it's my turn now." "To do what?" an official asked. Mara stood. "To decide how much you're allowed to forget." They did not take her. For the first time in recorded history, someone listened. The version we live in now. After that day, the clocks stabilized. Not perfectly, but enough. Some memories returned, some didn't. Certain wars were reclassified. Certain stories resurfaced quietly without explanation. And children stopped waking up screaming commands in the night. Mostly. What happened to Elias Varn? No record confirms it, but those who study time anomalies agree on one thing. Elias did not disappear. He shared the burden. He is no longer alone. And why you're hearing this story? Because these stories surface when the balance shifts. Because remembering is part of the correction. And because somewhere a child is listening right now and deciding what kind of history comes next. Final words. If you believe stories matter, if you believe history hides more than it reveals, subscribe to this channel.
Within 2 years,
because the
Mara
next
incident,
correction might
similar
already
reports
be happening.
appeared in places that
And
had
this
nothing
time,
in common.
you might
A
recognize
fishing
the
village
signs.
in Norway, a desert town in northern Mexico, a forgotten industrial suburb in eastern Poland. Always the same age, always between 6 and 9, always the same symptoms. Children who woke from sleep already knowing things. Children who corrected adults gently as if they had tried this before. Children who feared fog, silence, and clocks that ticked too loudly. And most disturbing of all, children who asked the same question. Why didn't you let him rest? The name they weren't supposed to share. At first, the children used different words. The boy who stayed, the quiet one, the watcher. But eventually, one of them said the name aloud. And once spoken, it spread. Elias. Not as a legend, not as a ghost, but as a responsibility. What Elias had become. The final recovered fragment, authenticated only after intense debate, suggested something extraordinary. Elias Varn was no longer bound to one place. He had become distributed. Not alive in the way humans understand it, not dead in any meaningful sense. He existed wherever a child listened closely enough to history's fractures. He was no longer correcting time alone. He was teaching others how. Why children were chosen. A suppressed internal report explained it best. Adults carry too much certainty. Children still carry possibility. Children do not demand logic from memory. They accept contradiction. They live with unfinished stories.
They can hold the weight Elias carried for a while. The cost that could not be avoided. But there was a cost. Every child who remembered too clearly began to lose something else. Time blurred, identity softened, a sense of before and after weakened. One boy asked his mother why she kept calling him the wrong name. Another forgot how old she was permanently. They were not broken, they were stretched. The question no one wanted to ask. At an unsanctioned meeting of historians, physicists, and child psychologists, someone finally asked the question that had been avoided since Red Hollow. How long can a child hold history together? No one answered, because the answer was already known. Not long. Elias's last lesson. In what is believed to be Elias's last message, reconstructed from overlapping accounts across 3 continents, he explained something he had never said before. Corrections are not solutions, they are delays. History would always demand payment. All Elias had done was give humanity time to choose differently. The choice that still hasn't been made. And that is where the records end. Not with catastrophe, not with salvation, but with uncertainty. Because for the first time, history was not being corrected for humanity. It was waiting to see what humanity would do on its own. Why this story is being told now? Because the signs are returning. Because clocks drift again, only slightly. Because children still ask questions adults can't answer. And because somewhere right now, a child is deciding whether to listen or to let history break. Final warning. If a child ever looks at you and says, "This already
history
happened,"
asked
do not
for
laugh,
its due.
do not argue,
History
do not
waited
silence
longer
them.
than Elias
History
ever
tried
expected.
that before,
That
and it
was the
nearly
cruelest
tore
part.
itself apart.
When the children began to fade. The first sign was not violence, not war, not disaster. It was forgetting. A girl in Prague forgot how to read, not suddenly, but gently, as if the words had never meant anything to her. A boy in Argentina stopped recognizing mirrors. Another child asked why everyone else seemed to age faster than him. Doctors blamed trauma. Teachers blamed distraction. Only the children knew the truth. They were holding too much. The thing Elias never wanted. Elias had always believed memory could be shared. He was wrong. Memory, when stretched across too many minds, begins to tear. And where memory tears, history leaks through. The first breach. It happened quietly in a coastal town where fog arrived without warning. An old bridge collapsed, not from age, but from something stranger. Witnesses swore the bridge had already collapsed once before. They described screams that no longer existed, names carved into stone that vanished after being read aloud, and children who covered their ears and begged the adults to leave because they could hear marching. What Elias finally understood. From wherever Elias existed now, scattered, diluted, present, he understood something he had avoided for over a century. You cannot protect the world forever by hiding its worst moments. Pain does not disappear when forgotten. It waits. The choice Elias never meant to make. The children were failing. If nothing changed, one of 2 things would happen. History would rupture violently, or the children would lose themselves completely. So Elias did the one thing he had never allowed. He prepared to end the corrections. The place between versions.
There exists a space no map can show, not a location, a pause, a moment history passes through when deciding what comes next. That is where Elias gathered the children, not physically, in memory. What he told them. He did not speak like a commander. He spoke like a tired child. I tried to save everyone. I couldn't. All I did was delay the hurt. The children listened. Some cried. Some were angry. Some already knew. The truth about Red Hollow. Red Hollow was not the worst war. It was the first lie. The moment humanity learned it could rewrite consequences instead of facing them. Every correction after that was easier and worse. The final option. Elias offered the children a choice, not one humanity had ever been allowed to make. Restore the buried histories slowly, painfully, or let corrections continue until something breaks beyond repair. No adults were consulted. For the first time, the future belonged to children. Mara's answer. Mara Ilves spoke last. She had listened longer than most. She said, "If they don't remember what they did, they'll keep doing it." And that was enough. The undoing. The corrections didn't stop all at once. They unwound, gently, like stitches being removed from a wound that never healed properly. People remembered things that hurt. Families discovered truths long buried. Nations reclassified histories they had sworn never happened. There were no riots, only silence, and then grief. What happened to the children? As the weight lifted, the children changed. They aged normally again, forgot the extra memories, lost the voices, but something remained. A seriousness in their eyes, as if they had seen adulthood too early. Elias's end. Elias did not survive the undoing, not because he died, but because there was no longer a place for him to exist. His final presence was felt, not seen. A calm, a stillness, and one last thought that appeared in the minds of those who listened longest. Let history be heavy. You need to feel it. The world after corrections. Wars did not stop. Mistakes did not vanish, but something changed. People argued less about whether something happened and more about what to do now that it had. Why this story ends here? Because this is where responsibility begins. There are no more anchors,
The first year
no
after
children
the undoing
holding
was the
time
hardest.
together.
Not because
Only
of chaos,
memory
but because
and choice.
of honesty.
Final
When
hook,
forgotten
channel
truths
CTA,
came
natural
back.
and viral.
Old
If
documents
this story
resurfaced
stayed
in
with
archives
you,
that had been
if it made you
cleaned for
uncomfortable
generations.
in a way that
Graves
felt
were
important,
remarked, dates
subscribe
were
to
corrected.
this channel.
Families
Because
sat
the
at dinner
stories
tables,
we remember
staring at records that
decide
proved
the
their
future
grandparents
we
had lived
deserve.
lives no one spoke about. Not heroes, not villains, just people who had survived things they were told never happened. The silence that followed. For a while, the world went quiet. News cycles slowed. Governments hesitated before speaking. Historians argued not over facts, but over how much truth a society could survive at once. No one mentioned Elias Varn, but everyone felt the absence. The children who grew up different. The children who had carried the weight grew into teenagers. They were not gifted, not prophetic, but they had something rare. They listened. They flinched when adults tried to rewrite uncomfortable moments. They questioned phrases like, "That's just how it was back then." They did not shout. They remembered. Mara's ordinary life. Mara Ilves grew up quietly. She studied history, not to change it, but to document it carefully.
She refused positions of power, refused committees. When asked why, she answered honestly. Someone has to write things down without trying to fix them. She never spoke Elias's name again, but sometimes when fog rolled in too fast, she would pause, just for a moment, as if listening. The last evidence Elias ever existed. Decades later, during the renovation of a forgotten railway station, workers found a wall sealed behind brick. On it, scratched deep enough to survive time, was a single sentence. No date, no signature. This version hurts, but it holds. The wall was preserved, then quietly removed from public access. Some habits die slowly. Why history still feels unstable. Even now, things are not perfect. People still lie. Power still hides its worst moments. But there is a difference. When lies surface, they do not feel new. They feel familiar, as if the world remembers being fooled before. The thing Elias gave humanity. Elias did not save the world. He did something harder. He returned responsibility. He made memory heavy again. A question for you. If you had the power to erase the worst moment in history, would you? And if you did, who would carry the cost instead? Final reflection. Soft hook. Stories like this don't go viral because they're comfortable. They spread because they stick. If this one stayed with you, if it made you pause, then you already understand why Elias existed and why he couldn't stay.
The echo that refused to die. History did not collapse after Elias vanished. That too was unsettling, because everyone had expected something, a sign, a punishment, a reward. Instead, the world continued, and that was the strangest outcome of all. The generation that asked better questions. 20 years after the undoing, a subtle shift appeared. Not in governments, not in borders, in classrooms. Students stopped memorizing dates without context. Teachers stopped skipping chapters marked controversial. Children asked questions that didn't seek blame, but patterns. Why did this happen again? Who benefited from forgetting? Who paid the cost? These were not Elias's words, but they carried his weight. The archive that should have stayed closed. In 2041, a private historical institute made a mistake. While digitizing neglected European records, an intern tagged an unnamed file incorrectly. The file went public for 11 minutes. That was enough. Inside, it was not a story. It was a sequence. Corrections, reversions, annotations written by different hands across centuries, and one repeating phrase, always written last. Too much damage. Roll back. The fear returned. Experts rushed to contain it, but the fear was not of another Elias. It was worse. The file suggested humanity had tried to fix history many times before Red Hollow. Elias was not the first anchor. He was simply the last one willing to stay. What Elias had protected the world from. The more fragments surfaced, the clearer the picture became. History wasn't fragile. Humanity was. Each time the cost of truth grew too heavy, someone chose erasure instead of repair. Each time, the future paid interest. Elias had stopped the cycle, not by correcting again, but by ending the option. The child who asked the wrong question.
In a quiet city far from where any of this began, a boy named Noah raised his hand during a history lecture. If remembering hurts, he asked, why didn't people just stop remembering again? The room went still. The teacher answered carefully, because they learned what it costs. Noah frowned. That night, he dreamed of fog. The dream was different this time. No commands, no orders, no marching. Just a boy standing alone, tired, watching something settle. Noah asked him, did it work? He smiled. Not sadly, not happily, just honestly. I don't know, he said, but it's yours now. Why Elias is not gone. Elias Varn does not exist as a person anymore, but that was never the point. He exists as a boundary, a reminder that history can be faced, but not outsourced. The last thing found in the records. Years later, a final marginal note appeared in a document no one remembered editing. Handwriting inconsistent with any known author. It read, if this is still being read, then forgetting failed. That's good. Why this is where the story ends. Not because everything is fixed, but because it never will be. And because the most dangerous idea humanity ever had was that someone else would carry the burden. Final words. Soft, viral close. If this story stayed with you, it's because part of you recognizes it. History doesn't ask for heroes anymore. It asks for witnesses. And now, you're one of them.